Welcome to my YouTube channel and to my train room. If you are watching last week, you will have seen me build a lumber load for one of the two Central Valley flat cars that I built some time ago. This week I'm going to build a different kind of load for the other car. So let me get the camera turned around and I'll show you what I've been doing. Although the two cars are the same, this week's load is going to look very different. When it comes to lumber, you can fill up the entire available volume of the car right up to the loading gauge without exceeding the weight limit of the car. I calculated that a stack of lumber 10 feet high, the full length of the car, would only weigh about 45 tons, and this is a 70-ton flat car. Of course, when it comes to steel plate, a very low pile can easily exceed the limit. So what I've had to do is calculate the maximum volume of steel that I can get within 70 tons. Anyway, this is 20 thou styrene, which scales out to approximately 1 3/4 inches thick. I figured that an 8-foot wide strip would look about right on the car, and then I plugged in the density of steel and came up with 4 linear feet per ton. So that allows me to have a maximum of 280 linear feet. Now I could just stack 7 planks the whole length of the car, but that would be a little bit boring. What I think I'm going to do is have different lengths of steel plate, and I'm going to stack them in groups as well instead of all together. I'm going to argue that at some point in its journey it has to be handled by a crane with a lower capacity. And what I've decided to do is put 6 30-foot planks and 5 16-foot planks, and I'm going to stack it in 3 groups with lumber between each group. So anyway, it's time to start cutting the styrene to size. As I said, this is 20 thou styrene. We just check that the edge is straight. So I'm going to go 8 scale feet wide. You may notice that I'm marking these at 4 instead of 8. That's because this scale rule is 7 millimeters to the foot from when I was modelling in British O scale. Well, I've cut all my steel plates. Also what I've done is scrape the long sides with the knife at about a 45-degree angle. That will give them some definition when I join them together. You'll still be able to see that it's 3 separate plates. But I haven't done that on the ends because I figure when the steel plate comes out of the rolling mill, it'll just be chopped with a guillotine of some kind, and the ends will probably be a little uneven. So I haven't dressed them at all. So there's all the steel plates. That's what 70 tons of steel looks like. It'll be a little bit taller than that once I've got the wooden sticks in. And also I've cut some larger pieces which I plan to put diagonally on a well car as a later project. The next thing I need to do is get all these plates painted and rusted up. So let me take them outside and get them sprayed, and I'll be right back. Well, I started by spraying them black, although none of the black is going to show through eventually. I wanted to make sure that I didn't get any white spots. What I'm going to do now is dry brush them with a metallic grey. Once again, I don't plan on having much of the grey visible. It'll be mostly rust shades. And I'm not going to bother doing the second side, I'm just going to do one side of each. course, in theory, I only have to do the top plank, but by doing them all, I end up with a choice, and I can put whichever one I like the best on top. I have an assortment of options when it comes to rust colours. I started off by lightly spraying some of the panels with a brown oxide or red oxide primer, making sure that I didn't cover everything, so some of the metallic colour is still showing through. And then I've got a variety of rust washes. I've got this fireball orange, which also looks really good in small amounts, and I've got my rust powders. So I'm going to use a variety of different techniques and see what I like best. Well, now I have all my metal plates rusted up. I used a variety of different methods. These 6 I'm just going to set aside. Those are for a different project later. I don't need those just yet. I have 6 of the long ones and 6 of the short ones. What I need to do is select my favourite one from each size to use that for the top. I think I quite like this one, so I'm going to use that as my topmost plate. And then maybe this one is my second favourite, so that's going to be the top plate of the lower stack. Right, so that's the order they get stacked in. I'm going to start off with 5 pieces of lumber across the car. These will be glued together. Those go on there. Some more lumber, and then another stack of plates. But I also have to consider how I'm going to attach it to the car. Ultimately there's going to be chains tying it down, and I want the chains to go into the stake pockets. I'm not sure if the chain that I have will actually fit into these stake pockets easily enough. So let me go away and experiment, and I'll be right back. Well, I've experimented with my chain, and yes, it will drop down through the stake pockets. Quite easily, in fact. So what I'm going to do is leave the wood just beside it, super glue the last few links so that it stays straight, and then glue it to the side of the wood, and then that will allow it to drop down. Not sure if I've got them in the right place just yet, but what I've done is put a piece of double-sided tape across the length of the car, and I've also got a different kind of glue. It's called Crazy Glue, or I guess if you've seen the Lego movie Craggle. I thought it was a decent sized tube of glue until I realised that was just a container, and here's the glue. I don't even know if it's going to stick to the chalked surfaces, but there's only one way to find out. Well, it's been quite a fiddly operation, but I've managed to get the chains on. I've got 2 of them that hang down, and I've super glued them so they're rigid and they fit in the stake pockets. And then on the other side, that one I think I'm going to have to cut. Let me cut that one off. wasn't able to get all 8 of them to fit in. It was going to be a tall order. So 6 of them hang down to just touch the top of the stake pocket, and 2 of them go through to stop the load sliding off. Well, the load is now complete. I had to spread it over a couple of days to allow for paint to dry, but other than that it went fairly quickly. It didn't take as many hours to build this as it did to build the lumber load last week. That's probably because there wasn't as much of it to stack. I like the way it turned out, and I hope you enjoyed this project too. So thanks for watching, and I hope to see you again next week. Bye for now.